Saturday mornings in 1974 meant watching a mild-mannered janitor transform into the world's worst martial arts superhero. Hong Kong Phooey was clumsy, incompetent, and usually got saved by his cat, but we loved him anyway. Behind that ridiculous show was a rushed production schedule, a legendary voice actor, and decisions that almost made it very different. These are Hong Kong Phooey 15 wild facts you didn't know. Number 15. The show was created in just 3 weeks. Hanna-Barbera was scrambling in early 1974. ABC had ordered a new Saturday morning show, but the original concept they'd pitched fell through. The network needed content fast, and Hanna-Barbera had only 3 weeks to develop a completely new show from scratch. That's an impossibly short timeline for creating an animated series. Most shows take months or even years to develop. The creative team locked themselves in a room and started throwing out ideas. Kung Fu movies were huge at the time, thanks to Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon. The idea of spoofing martial arts films while creating a superhero cartoon came together quickly. They needed a character that could be animated simply and cheaply. A dog was easy to animate, and making him a janitor gave them a built-in location for stories. The transformation sequence where Penrod Pooch becomes Hong Kong Phooey was designed to eat up screen time. Every episode used the exact same animation of him jumping into the filing cabinet and emerging in costume. This saved enormous amounts of money and production time. They could reuse that sequence in every single episode without creating new animation. The 3-week development period meant many elements of the show were barely thought through. Nobody really worked out how Hong Kong Phooey's powers functioned or what his backstory was. The Hong Kong Book of Kung Fu that he constantly consulted was added because they needed to explain how he knew martial arts moves. But the logic of a book teaching you instant Kung Fu was never questioned. Character designs were simplified to the extreme. Hong Kong Phooey wore basically pajamas, which were easy to animate. Spot the Cat had minimal features. Rosemary, the telephone operator, had a standard Hanna-Barbera female design that had been used in other shows. The police sergeant looked like every other cartoon authority figure from that era. Everything was created for speed and cost efficiency. The rush showed in the final product. Episodes had plot holes, animation errors, and stories that didn't quite make sense. But somehow, the show's chaotic energy worked. The fact that it felt thrown together actually added to the comedy. Hong Kong Phooey's incompetence seemed more genuine because the show itself felt a bit incompetent. Number 14. Scatman Crothers voiced Hong Kong Phooey and became iconic. Scatman Crothers provided the voice for Hong Kong Phooey, and his performance made the character memorable. Crothers was already a successful actor and musician when he took the role. He'd been performing since the 1930s, working in jazz clubs, recording albums, and appearing in films. Voice acting for cartoons was just another gig for him, but his natural charisma came through even in animation. Crothers gave Hong Kong Phooey a distinctive voice that was enthusiastic and confident, despite the character's constant failures. That contrast between Hong Kong Phooey's self-assurance and his actual incompetence was crucial to the comedy. If the character had sounded as bumbling as he acted, he wouldn't have been funny. The humor came from the gap between how he saw himself and what actually happened. The recording sessions were reportedly hilarious. Crothers would ad-lib constantly, adding little vocal flourishes and bits of business that weren't in the script. Many of these improvised moments made it into the final episodes. The animators would sometimes adjust the animation to match Crothers' delivery rather than asking him to match pre-existing animation. Crothers also sang the theme song, bringing his musical background to the show. His scat singing gave the theme its memorable sound. That opening with Crothers scatting Hong Kong Phooey's name became instantly recognizable. Kids who watched the show could imitate that opening, and it's still remembered decades later. Beyond Hong Kong Phooey, Crothers became one of the most prolific voice actors in animation. He voiced characters for Hanna-Barbera and other studios throughout the 1970s and 1980s, but Hong Kong Phooey remained one of his most beloved roles. When Crothers died in 1986, obituaries mentioned Hong Kong Phooey alongside his live-action work, a testament to how memorable the character had become. Number 13. The show only lasted one season with 16 episodes. Hong Kong Phooey's entire original run consisted of just 16 episodes broadcast between September and December 1974. That's it. 4 months of new episodes, and then the show entered permanent reruns. Yet those 16 episodes played on Saturday morning television for years, creating the impression of a much longer-running series. The decision to end production after 16 episodes wasn't about low ratings. The show was actually successful and popular with kids. The issue was cost and Hanna-Barbera's production schedule. The studio was churning out multiple shows simultaneously, and Hong Kong Phooey was considered complete at 16 episodes. In the 1970s, networks could repeat episodes endlessly, so there wasn't pressure to produce more. Those 16 episodes were split into 31 individual segments. Most episodes contained 2 separate Hong Kong Phooey adventures, with some including additional short segments. This structure made the show feel like it had more content than it actually did. Kids watching reruns over several years saw the same stories multiple times, but didn't necessarily realize how limited the actual episode count was. The brevity of the original run meant certain storylines were never developed. Hong Kong Phooey's origin story was barely explained. His relationship with Rosemary never progressed beyond her not knowing he was the superhero. The sergeant remained oblivious throughout. There was no character growth or development because there wasn't time for it. Interestingly, the show's short run may have helped its longevity. The 16 episodes never got stale because there weren't enough to overexpose the concept. Other cartoons from the same era that ran for multiple seasons can feel repetitive. Hong Kong Phooey kept its novelty because it ended before wearing out its welcome. Number 12. Hong Kong Phooey was terrible at his job on purpose. The central joke of Hong Kong Phooey was that the hero was completely incompetent. He would attempt to fight crime and solve cases, but he usually made things worse. Spot the Cat would actually solve the crimes or save the day, while Hong Kong Phooey took the credit. This was intentional, a deliberate inversion of the typical superhero formula. The character's incompetence was a commentary on overconfident heroes. Hong Kong Phooey read his martial arts book before every mission, looked up the right move, attempted it, and then executed it wrong. He had access to all the information he needed, but couldn't apply it successfully. His Phooey-mobile, created from the police station's trash, would malfunction constantly. The humor worked because Hong Kong Phooey never realized he was terrible. He remained confident and enthusiastic, believing himself to be a great hero. The disconnect between his self-perception and reality was the engine of comedy. Kids watching understood the joke. They saw Spot doing the real work and Hong Kong Phooey failing upward. Spot became the real star of the show despite being a supporting character. The cat was competent, intelligent, and exasperated by Hong Kong Phooey's incompetence. Spot communicated through meows and gestures, but his meaning was always clear. The dynamic between the bungling hero and his long-suffering sidekick provided more depth than the simple stories needed. The show's willingness to make its hero genuinely bad at heroism was unusual for the time. Most cartoon heroes were competent even if they faced challenges. Hong Kong Phooey was different. He succeeded through luck, Spot's intervention, or villains' mistakes, but never through his own skill. This made him more relatable despite being a cartoon dog superhero. Number 11. The character design was recycled from previous Hanna-Barbera shows. Hong Kong Phooey's visual design wasn't entirely original. Hanna-Barbera recycled and modified character models from previous shows to save time and money during the rushed production. The basic structure of Hong Kong Phooey's face and body came from other anthropomorphic dog characters the studio had created. The animation style was classic Hanna-Barbera limited animation. Characters moved minimally, with only necessary body parts animated in any given scene. Backgrounds were reused constantly. The police station interior appeared in almost every episode with minimal variation. This approach kept costs down but gave the show a recognizable Hanna-Barbera look. Hong Kong Phooey's costume was designed for maximum simplicity. The red pajama outfit had no complex patterns or details that would complicate animation. His mask was just simple eye holes. The entire design could be drawn quickly and consistently by different animators, important when working on a tight schedule. Spot the cat used a standard cat design that Hanna-Barbera had employed in other productions. The studio had libraries of stock character designs that could be modified slightly for new shows. Spot was one of those modified stock designs, given just enough unique features to distinguish him, but not so many that he required extra animation effort. The vehicles and gadgets in the show were similarly simplified. The Phooey-mobile was basically a box on wheels. It transformed into different configurations, but these transformations used minimal animation. A few frames of the vehicle changing shape, and suddenly it was a boat or a plane. The simplicity was necessary given the production timeline. Number 10. The show was banned in Hong Kong. Ironically, the show titled Hong Kong Phooey was banned in Hong Kong itself. The government objected to the portrayal of martial arts and Chinese culture in the show. They considered it disrespectful and a misrepresentation of Hong Kong and Kung Fu traditions. The ban remained in place for years. Hong Kong authorities felt the show trivialized martial arts, which have serious cultural significance. The idea of a bumbling dog superhero learning kung fu from a book and using it incompetently was seen as mockery. The Hong Kong Book of Kung Fu, a central prop in the show, was particularly offensive to some because it reduced complex martial arts disciplines to simple instructions anyone could follow. The show's title also caused problems. Using Hong Kong in the name while having no actual connection to the city or accurate representation of its culture felt exploitative to local authorities. They argued the show was using Hong Kong's name recognition without honoring what Hong Kong actually was. Chinese communities in other countries had mixed reactions. Some found the show harmless fun, a silly cartoon that wasn't meant to be taken seriously. Others agreed with Hong Kong authorities that it was disrespectful. The debate reflected larger tensions about how Western media portrayed Asian cultures during the 1970s. The ban in Hong Kong meant the show never developed a local following there. In the rest of the world, Hong Kong Phooey became a cultural touchstone. But in the city whose name it bore, it was unknown for years. The ban was eventually lifted, but by then, the show was decades old and had become a historical curiosity rather than current entertainment. Number 9. There were only 4 different villains used repeatedly. Hong Kong Phooey's Rogues Gallery was extremely limited. The show primarily featured 4 main villains who appeared multiple times: the Giggler, the Goon, Mr. Tornado, and the Penthouse Burglar. Having just 4 recurring villains for 16 episodes meant viewers saw the same antagonists repeatedly. This limited villain roster was another cost-saving measure. Creating new character designs for every episode would require more time and money. By establishing a small group of recurring villains, animators could reuse character models and animation. The Giggler laughed constantly, the Goon was brutish, Mr. Tornado could spin, and the Penthouse Burglar targeted high-rises. Each villain had a simple gimmick, making them easy to write stories around. Occasionally, episodes featured one-off villains, but the show defaulted to established antagonists because it was easier and faster. Kids didn't mind seeing the same bad guys repeatedly, since the focus was on Hong Kong Phooey's bumbling attempts to stop them. The limited roster inadvertently created consistency. Viewers knew these characters and their patterns, making the show easy to follow even for young children. Number 8. The Filing Cabinet Transformation was a ripoff of Superman. The transformation sequence where Penrod Pooch jumps into a filing cabinet and emerges as Hong Kong Phooey was directly inspired by Superman's phone booth transformations. The creators weren't hiding this. The filing cabinet was chosen because Penrod worked in a police station, making it contextually appropriate. It was also funnier than Superman's serious phone booth change. The animation was identical in every episode. Penrod would hear about a crime, run toward the filing cabinet, jump, somehow enter despite closed drawers, and emerge in costume. The 5-second sequence was pure recycled animation, saving tremendous production time and money. Kids loved the transformation despite seeing it dozens of times. It became part of the show's rhythm, a familiar beat signaling the action phase. The filing cabinet became so associated with Hong Kong Phooey that merchandise featured it. That filing cabinet, used for comedic effect and budget savings, became one of the most memorable elements of the series. Number 7. The theme song was written by Hoyt Curtin. Hoyt Curtin composed the Hong Kong Phooey theme song, along with hundreds of other cartoon themes for Hanna-Barbera. Curtin was the studio's go-to composer, responsible for the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, and dozens more. His work defined the sound of Hanna-Barbera cartoons for generations. Curtin's approach was straightforward. Create something catchy kids could sing, incorporate martial arts elements, and keep it under a minute. The result opened with Scatman Crothers' distinctive vocals and had a driving beat. The scat singing at the beginning became the show's signature sound. Kids in schoolyards would imitate that opening, making Hong Kong Phooey part of playground culture. The theme's simplicity helped it stick in memory with no complex lyrics or elaborate arrangements. Decades later, people who haven't thought about Hong Kong Phooey in years can still hum that theme song. Number 6. Rosemary the telephone operator had no idea about the secret identity. Rosemary worked as the telephone operator at the police station where Penrod was the janitor. She had a crush on Hong Kong Phooey but treated Penrod as invisible, barely acknowledging him. This created a classic secret identity dynamic similar to Superman and Lois Lane. The running joke was that Rosemary couldn't see what was obvious to viewers. Penrod would disappear, and Hong Kong Phooey would immediately appear. They were never in the same place at the same time and had the same voice. Yet Rosemary never made the connection, maintaining her infatuation with the hero while ignoring the janitor. This dynamic allowed for comedy in almost every episode. Rosemary would call for help, Penrod would transform, and she'd swoon over the superhero without realizing it was the same dog. The show never resolved this dynamic. Rosemary never discovered the truth because the series ended before character arcs could conclude. She remained forever oblivious, forever crushing on the hero, forever unaware the janitor she ignored was the object of her affection. Number 5. The show was originally going to feature multiple superhero animals. Early concepts for Hong Kong Phooey included a team of animal superheroes working together. The original pitch had Hong Kong Phooey as part of a group, each with different powers and specialties. This would have created more variety in stories and characters. But the tight production schedule made a team concept impractical. Multiple main characters meant more character designs, more voice actors, more animation challenges. The team concept was stripped down to just Hong Kong Phooey and Spot. The cat sidekick was the only remainder of the original ensemble idea. Some remnants of the team concept remained in the show's structure. The police station setting could have accommodated other superhero characters. The transformation sequence might have been more elaborate with multiple heroes, but budget and time constraints forced simplification to a single protagonist. This simplification actually strengthened the show. Hong Kong Phooey's incompetence worked better when he was the sole hero. If there had been a competent team backing him up, his failures would have been less significant. Making him the only superhero, assisted only by his cat, made every situation feel more precarious and his successes more important. The abandoned team concept raises interesting questions about what Hong Kong Phooey could have been. Would a team dynamic have made the show more sustainable for multiple seasons? Or would it have diluted the simplicity that made the show work? We'll never know, but the show we got, with its singular focus on one bumbling hero, became memorable precisely because of that focus. Number 4. The Phooey-mobile was made from police station trash. The Phooey-mobile was supposedly constructed from garbage found in the police station. The show never explained how a janitor built a transforming vehicle from trash, but the vehicle could change into a boat, plane, or other configurations as needed. The transforming concept was borrowed from other action shows. Kids loved vehicles that could change, and toy companies loved merchandising opportunities. The Phooey-mobile was animated simply with minimal frames showing transformations. The vehicle would often malfunction, creating comedy and excusing animation shortcuts. Its unreliability matched Hong Kong Phooey's incompetence. Just as the hero messed up kung fu moves, his vehicle would break down or transform incorrectly, often requiring Spot's intervention. Despite being made from trash, the Phooey-mobile had impressive capabilities when it worked, flying and traveling at high speeds. Like much of the show, it worked on cartoon logic where internal consistency mattered less than comedy. Number 3. Eddie Murphy wanted to star in a live-action movie. In the 1990s, Eddie Murphy expressed interest in starring in a live-action Hong Kong Phooey movie. He'd grown up watching the cartoon and thought it would translate well to live action. Studios were interested since Murphy was a major star and nostalgic cartoon adaptations were becoming popular. Development began on a script, but the project encountered numerous problems. Hong Kong Phooey worked as a 10-minute cartoon, but expanding it to 90 minutes exposed limitations. Creating a live-action dog superhero would require extensive CGI. The Phooey-mobile would need realistic transformations. Costs escalated while the script remained problematic. The movie remained in development for years, getting periodically revived and stalling. Different writers and directors came and went. Murphy's interest eventually faded. The movie never happened, remaining one of many cartoon adaptations that couldn't overcome practical obstacles. Number 2. The show has been referenced in countless other media. Despite its short run, Hong Kong Phooey became embedded in popular culture. References appeared in movies, TV series, and music over the decades. The character's name became shorthand for incompetent heroes who succeed through luck. Wu-Tang Clan member Method Man referenced Hong Kong Phooey in his music as a childhood favorite. Other hip-hop artists made similar references. The Simpsons included nods to Hong Kong Phooey in several episodes. Shows like Family Guy and Robot Chicken parodied the character and his filing cabinet transformation. The character appeared on t-shirts and merchandise aimed at nostalgic adults. Hong Kong Phooey became part of the retro cartoon aesthetic, instantly recognizable even to people who'd only seen it in passing. These cultural references kept the character alive long after new episodes stopped, ensuring Hong Kong Phooey remained part of the cultural conversation for decades. Number 1. Boomerang revived the show for new audiences. Boomerang regularly aired Hong Kong Phooey episodes beginning in the early 2000s, introducing the character to children who hadn't been born when it originally aired. The reruns demonstrated the show's simple humor still worked. DVD releases followed, allowing people to own the complete series. The full 16 episodes with all 31 segments became available with retrospective materials. The revival led to new merchandise. Action figures, clothing, and collectibles appeared in stores. Adults could buy memorabilia they'd wanted decades earlier. Warner Brothers explored ways to capitalize on renewed interest, proposing animated specials and potential reboots. While most projects didn't materialize, they demonstrated the character still had recognition. The Boomerang era proved Hong Kong Phooey had enduring appeal beyond 1974, with new generations enjoying the same simple comedy in an era of complex storytelling. If you enjoyed these wild facts about Hong Kong Phooey and it brought back memories of Saturday mornings watching that bumbling hero, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more nostalgic deep dives into the cartoons we loved.